Thank you.
How great is that movie?
Thank you, everyone.
Congratulations, guys. I love this movie. I saw it. I'm Krista Smith. I'm with Vanity Fair, and I'm absolutely honored to be here with these guys. I first saw this movie back in August, and then I saw it in Toronto, and I just love how this film has hit the zeitgeist, and it means so much to people, and people love it. And it's great to have you guys.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for staying so late.
So wonderful.
So, Bradley, I'll start with you, since you star and direct in this film. I want to know about how you got to Jackson Maine, because the character is so defined and has so much soul and heart. And I feel like if you couldn't pull him off, there would be no movie. Like, you have to believe him so deeply. The audience has to know him and love him and respond to him to care about the whole movie. How did you get into him? And I still feel like he's living around. I mean, now it's going to be Jackson Maine. It's like it's its own thing now.
No, he's gone.
Oh, no. Oh, don't say that.
He is. He's gone. I mean, it's sad, but yeah, he's gone. Well, I have the real deal, and so Jackson Maine better be authentic, because otherwise, it's not. The movie just won't work. I mean, we sang everything live. So I knew that if anything, he had to be authentic, and I guess I just had time. I had time. The truth that deep down, I remember in like eighth grade in high school, we did this like sketch, and we sang "Bad to the Bone." And I remember my Latin teacher said to me, "It's so weird the things you remember." And he said, you could. He's like, you could actually be a rock star. I swear to God, I remember that. And I thought, when I was thinking about this movie, I thought, well, Dwight Peterson thought that. and then it's just about working hard, and we had great people. Lucas Nelson, who's just, I can't say enough about, and Promise of the Real, which was Jackson's band. We just spent hours and hours and hours in my basement working on it, and just having this person who was just such a believer in me at becoming Jackson Maine, and then great musicians who opened their world to me, and I was able to spend a lot of time with them. Because the one thing is clear, rock stars are very idiosyncratic. There's an authenticity. They walk in a room and it's just, they sound different, they look different. It's just, they're indelible. And so I just knew that I had to put the work in to create somebody that I believed was like one of those people.
And for you, Lady Gaga, I think what's people might take for granted that, oh, she's singing and you're singing in the movie, but Ally is so different than Lady Gaga. And I want to talk to you as an actress. How did you develop the character of Ally, and how for you when you were performing, and specifically when you were singing, because it's so moving, how was it different for you?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say that I had the same reaction as your teacher in school. That as soon as I heard Bradley sing, I was like, oh my God, he could be a rock star. So I believed in him fully right off the bat, and I still do. I think he just did a tremendous job in the way that he portrayed a rock star, and with such authenticity. For me, the thing is I've been thinking a lot about this recently, and I think that because I always wanted to be an actress before I wanted to be a singer, I studied at the Lee Strasberg Institute, I did some Meisner, I did some Adler, I went to Circle in the Square for a little while. I kind of had it in me, and I've over the years created characters for myself because I could not get a job as an actress. So I became a musician that acted as well. But for Ally, what I wanted more than anything was for her to be completely different from me. And it's also, it's a completely different experience when you're working with a director and a screenplay writer and the costume designer Aaron and lighting Matthew and just this amazing like sanctuary of trust that everyone built. I knew that I wanted her to be completely different, and what I did not have at my disposal, which I usually have, is the ability to do it all myself. I had to, be collaborative with everyone around me, and that ultimately stripped away all of the armor of the characters that I've built before now. And so for Allie, yes, it was for me beginning with, not wearing makeup every day, not wearing wigs every day, dyeing my hair back to my natural color, taking cues from the costume fittings that we did, and dressing like her on a daily basis, working hours in the studio, working on Allie's music, working with Lucas Nelson, and figuring out how Allie's sound would transform as she fell in love with Jackson, and how she would sound with him, and then how she would sound later. So for me, it was very much about finding a new character, but finding it without all the armor that I had before. What happens when you strip it all away and just be? And I had my friend here next to me to guide me through it, and his belief in me as an actress really meant a lot to me, and it made me feel like I was ready, and I'm very grateful to him for that.
And Sam, I think you've been, this year, you're celebrating, I don't know, your 50th anniversary being in show business.
I think
All
so.
right.
I would have to say, full disclosure, as a teenager in the 80s, I was absolutely in love with you with Mask, so.
I still am.
Yeah.
Me too.
So for you, this is one of, I think, first of all, Bradley, kudos to you. The cast in this film is superb. From Andrew Dice Clay, I mean, everybody around, the three people sitting here, obviously you cast, you kind of count, but it just is incredible chemistry this whole cast had. But Sam, I want to talk to you specifically in this part, because as an actor, I love the way so much of you is your voice, obviously, and your full head of hair and your swagger and your talent. And I love that at Sundance a couple years ago, The Hero, there was a whole movie basically about your voice with the ranch salad dressing movie. I love. If you have not seen it, please watch The Hero. But talk to me about why you wanted to do this movie, and what was it about playing the brother and being with Bradley and you guys sharing this? You talk about the idiosyncratic. I mean, you guys are brothers, but you melded into obviously the through point was the voice, but you really had this, chemistry going on. And I just would like you to talk a little bit about that experience.
It's one of the great things I think about being in this game is you just have, not always, but when you have these opportunities to really strike a relationship, a deep relationship with the people you're working with, it just becomes a wonderful experience. I think Bradley and I became pretty close right off, like in our first meeting. I went to his home. I, loved him from afar. I've loved Stephanie from afar for a long time, and but never had crossed paths with Bradley. And he talked to me we talked about our families, we talked about our moms, things that were dear to us, and got around to talking about this brother relationship, and whether it was what it was going to be, or whether it was what it was on the page at that time, we really didn't know, I don't think. I remember Bradley telling me if I trusted him that I wouldn't be sorry. But, it's a smaller part, yeah, but I just feel like Bobby's always there somehow. You know what I mean? And I don't think there really are small parts. Sandy Meisner said something about that one time. No, it wasn't Sandy Meisner. Who was that? That'll come back maybe. That's another thing that happens after 50 years, I guess. But there was no saying no. It was a grand opportunity. to work with Bradley, to work with Stephanie, and to do something that, there was no secret to me when I spoke with Bradley initially that this was going to be a special adventure. He had, the fourth remake of a film, but he was the man. He was the man, and it proved out. I think all of the energy you see in this film came from that man. He was the muse to all of us.
Yes, he was.
Well, to that point, I want to ask you guys, and I want you obviously to weigh in, Bradley. How is it, and specifically, I'll pick one scene, is that scene of you guys in the pickup. And I'm still mad at you for not getting out of the pickup. Because I feel like I might have changed had you gotten out of the pickup and given him a hug. But I was bawling when every time, I've seen it, it touches me in such a way. How is that to do that scene with the actor, obviously Jackson Maine, your brother, and then be directed by Bradley Cooper in one of the most emotional scenes in the film?
It was a really incredible moment for me to see Bradley actor, Bradley director. We did 2 takes of that, I believe.
Yeah.
It was a driving shot with a camera behind me, and was there a camera mounted on the front of the truck as well, or was it just in the garage?
No, just 2 behind us. Yeah.
And there were 2 behind us, and one in the garage, or no?
Yes, there was.
I think one in the garage. It was a long incline getting down into that driveway, and we knew what was going to be said, or we knew the intent of what was to be said. And I knew what was coming, but I didn't really know how it was going to come out. I just knew what was coming. And that was the end of the long gestation of that relationship. And we were both fully there. And when Bradley got out and hemmed and hawed a little bit, it just struck me. It poleaxed me. And it wouldn't have mattered what I would have done had I gotten out of the truck or what I would have done. It doesn't matter. But to see Bradley get out, perform that beat, shut the door, reach across and pick up a monitor,
Right. So true.
walk around to the front of the truck, and I'm there like, what the fuck, man? I'm still in the scene,
Good thing you turned around.
And that's why I turned around. I couldn't stand him anymore. I just had to get out of there, man.
But isn't it amazing in that scene? There's so much that is said, but it's also what's unsaid that really grabs you. I mean, if a man can make you cry backing up a pickup truck, I don't know. I don't know what.
True.
Yeah, it was Stanislavski that said there are no small parts, just small actors. I'm not sure what he meant by that.
Small parts and small acting. Well, for you, Lady Gaga, for the bathtub scene was one of the most moving scenes for me for you guys, for your relationship about on both sides of it. So again, I can't imagine how vulnerable as an actor, you're in a tub and you're obviously inebriated. Can you talk a little bit about filming that with?
That was a heavy scene, a heavy day. But I will say, working with Bradley, he's so fluid as a director and an actor at the same time. I never felt a shift. I always felt that he was there, and I could trust him, and that we were together. So it's quite interesting, right? Because you're acting, and we're having this like extremely emotional, awful conversation with each other, and at the same time, you have to completely trust your director. So in a moment where I'm almost untrusting of him and angry with him and insulted by him, I'm also in the back of my mind, in a space of comfort, in a space of love. I think what was very special about that scene, for me anyways, is, the themes of alcoholism and the theme of, codependency and addiction and how that affects in a relationship. This is something that has affected me in my life, and to share that with him was very, very special to me. And he really honored that, and it's an interesting thing to feel afraid and yet unafraid at the same time, and that's how I felt with him. And I felt that way the whole time we filmed. And that is a very heavy scene, but I will say that that sense of vulnerability that I felt this entire time we were filming, it was that exact thing: fear but no fear. Trust completely in what you're doing, and we always kept going. That he always encouraged all of us to never stop. If we were going, we were in this scene, that if I said something or did something that maybe, or if anyone did or said anything that they thought was maybe not right, that we just keep going. And it helped to provide for a sense, for me anyway, that in a way the cameras weren't there, and that we were really just being and living. And the thing that I take away the most from this experience with Bradley and the entire cast and crew, everyone from the grips to catering to lighting, everyone, is that, there was a family of trust, and we truly lived this. We lived this. This was real. This actually happened. And I remember it, and it's filed in my mind as, an actual true experience in my life.
And for you, Bradley, can you talk a little bit about being, just from what they said about you being the actor and the director and having that responsibility, and then also having to go from just the technicality of having to get in the space where you are inebriated and it's like the ugliest part of your character, and it's kind of the most beautiful part of your character, like butting heads, and then you have to switch and be like, wait, is this, how do you do that?
Well, first of all, I looked at the monitor behind the shed, just so. I waited till I was behind the shed. I would never do that to you. I just did the work. I've had great teachers in grad school, and Elizabeth Kemp was one of them, and Susan Batson. And Elizabeth Kemp and Susan worked with us, and in terms of the inebriation, I just, a lot of sense memory, and, you create that space and you get into that zone. And thank God the actors were willing to allow me to direct them sort of in that state, because it was easier to stay in that state, especially the Grammy scene. It just took me a little longer to communicate what I wanted.
But you did.
And not by any sort of sense of I just need to stay in it. Just is easier to do it that way. But it was because they made me feel so comfortable. I mean, Stephanie's absolutely right. The only way that I was terrified about that bathroom scene, I was terrified to know that we both were going to have to go to this place, specifically Jackson, in what he was going to provoke in her. But oddly enough, she provoked it in him when she brought up his dad. Which really allowed me as Jackson to firmly embrace how dark I wanted to go as him. And that's only because she risked saying that. And I felt it. I felt the risk of what she knew that meant to him, how much she was hurting him in that moment. And so it really did feel real, which is all we try to do, right? We're just trying to get an authentic moment. And the only way I can ever be authentic is if someone's really talking to me. Otherwise, it's just you're trying to manifest it through some memory and substitution, and I'm not really there. But if I can, my job's so easy if everybody's just talking to me, and I know as an actor that's what I'm always looking for. So that's all I try to create is an environment where everybody is talking to each other and risking everything. It's that fearful thing when you're jumping off a cliff as an actor and you don't quite know what Alan Alda said. It said, what's listening? Listening is having whatever the actor is saying to you may change your response, even though it's scripted. And it's true and that's a terrifying thing, even especially when you're doing a play, to really allow that to happen. And that's the way it felt every day working on this film. And that scene in particular, I just have to say, it was also great that was way into the shooting process. That was, I think, towards the last week or two. And Stephanie's learning curve just about within the, the confines, because everything's in the confines of a camera movement. And that was actually a very specific movement because we didn't have enough room in the house. So we just took out all the closet because I wanted the camera to go out. Because, he closes, he leaves and she comes up like tightened out of the water, and then he closes the door. And she was just so able to work within this very specific confine completely organically. And to watch you do that in that scene, I remember as a director, I just felt so thrilled to look at this pro just be completely authentic under very restricted confines cinematically.
Thank you, Bradley.
Yeah.
That's true.
How married were you to your script? Did you have moments of improv and moments of things like you just mentioned? Did you allow for that? Did it come up?
I love exploring. And I think that the only reason why I felt so confident in doing that is, well, first of all, hiring incredible people, having people, trusting themselves to this project, and then working on the script tirelessly with Eric Roth and Will Fetters to the point where I knew exactly, the structure to me felt so solid, and the story felt so solid, and the characters, I knew exactly what I needed. And then you go there on the day, and if there's something else, Mike Nichols really said the best thing. He said, they asked him, how do you approach directing? He said exactly how I approach acting, which is I prepare, and I show up and I throw it all away. Because look at these beautiful artists. I'm not going to just absolutely tell them what to say, and then they have to say it. And, I want to see what they bring. And if something, and you also arrive at a set, and all of a sudden, I didn't know that light was going to be stronger than that, and maybe we can change it. And for a crew to be so dexterous along with that idea, that way, that method of working, I think while that's scary for everybody, including the crew, I think it adds a level of not authenticity, of being present, because you have to, because you're literally taking in the moment as it's occurring. So I feel the same way about the script in that manner.
Mm-hmm. And for you guys, Gaga and Sam, in that last scene too, towards the end when you're mourning, when he's gone, even though I refuse to believe it, but yeah, when you're gone, did you
I'm
guys?
still here. He's
yeah,
gone.
I know exactly. But
Right?
and the hair's gone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you guys rehearse that? Because you didn't have as much screen time, obviously, as you guys did together. How was the scene at the end when you're talking? You're gone, and
We don't rehearse ever.
No.
Yeah,
that's
I don't
what
like
asking.
rehearsing. Yeah.
No.
Okay.
And I actually, that was very by the script, that scene.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
It was.
that was
There was quite a bit to what Bobby was like running off at the mouth at that point. And there was a lot of dialogue there. And I remember when I came in, and I'd really worked on it because I'd finished the film, and Bradley chose to bring me back to do that scene. I think initially it was going to be Dad playing it.
yeah, Lorenzo.
And it was such a gift, and I'd really worked on it, and I really came in, and I got in way too deep, like right off the top. It killed me. It killed me. It was hard for me to get through it. And Bradley pulled me back and got me on track, and it finally got where it needed to get. That was just a magical day. That was such a gift.
That day we shot also the scene of me destroying the house the same day, it goes back to what Bradley was saying about listening. Yep. I would do, especially for a scene like that, there was a very strong sense memory and as if component for it for me. I had to not just think and be as Allie mourning Jackson, but for me there was an as if for me in my mind of someone in my family if I had lost them. It was my sister. But because there was sort of this endless amount of listening, you do your sense memory work, you do your as if, and as Elizabeth would have said, you create that alchemy, right? And then when you get on set, you kind of just be brave and you hope that it will be there and you trust. But what was so interesting, I thought, for me anyway, was, Bradley was behind the camera while we were shooting that scene, and he looked like Jackson, but he was gone. So, it was a very tight space. I mean, it must have been like maybe 6 by 6 feet. I mean, we were so close together, and we stayed in it for quite a while shooting it. And
I was right by your knee.
Yeah, you were right in there, and yet he was completely gone. And I just have to say, it was the listening. It was the listening between Sam and I. It was the listening between me and Bradley, me watching, Bradley and Sam listen to each other, us all communicating. It was like, this is what we're doing. And then, when we would shoot, the truth is, Bradley doesn't, call it action, or cut. Sometimes we would start and we wouldn't know if the cameras were rolling or not, and it was amazing because he wanted to catch those moments. He wanted to catch that first instinct, and that was a very special scene and one that I will never forget. But mostly very special because he was there, but he was not at the same time, and very strangely. We kept right on script for that. Yeah, very special moment. I'm very grateful to both Bradley and Sam for that moment.
I have some audience questions that I'm going to get to in a minute, but I want to talk about and ask all three of you this question. What do you think it is about this film and maybe this time that has affected so many people? Because it's so simple in a way about loss and love, and yes, it's about fame and talent and opportunity, and it's kind of about everything. But what do you think it is about the time that we're living in that has made A Star Is Born, and as we've discussed, it's the fourth one to be made, that has hit such a nerve in the zeitgeist?
Can I digress for 1 second? Sorry. I just thought, it just reminded me that because I remember David O. Russell was the first person that I really felt was not behind. Video Village always made me paranoid. It's like, what's the director thinking? Are they? And you wait, and then they're going to come, and then sometimes it's the first AD that's giving you the note that the director gave them. And David O. Russell was always right there, and Clint Eastwood is like that too. And I always remember, it's always good to have levity on the scene and set always too. And both of those directors have it. And I always remember American Sniper, that very tight shot when he's in a very horrific moment, and Clint was literally right next to the camera. He's like, "Yeah, you see the kid." Yeah, and you're gonna kill him, and I was like, but I loved that he was right. There's something about that community when the director is actually. It feels as if, and that's what I try to do. Is it feels like you're not alone risking it. That the director is right there with you and has just as much to lose, and so I completely took that because I know as an actor that's what if the director's right here and I feel it, I'm going to be much more willing to risk. Anyway, I just had to give. I remember.
No, but it makes sense. Obviously,
Hardly a digression.
Good digression.
As being an actor, why? Of course.
Yeah.
Like I do find that I'm obviously not an actor, but I do always find that weird. They're over there, and
But that's magic.
Yeah.
For a scene like that where he's supposed to be gone and he's right there, that's like him performing a magic trick for us. I mean, really. Houdini.
Yeah. Anyway, do you want to?
Sorry, yeah.
That's okay. That's okay. Did you guys want to talk about like why you think audiences have responded, other than it's a great, beautifully crafted, performed film?
I mean, you never know. You have no idea. The only thing that I know is that what movies change my life every time I see a great film. It's because I feel like there's something true that the filmmaker or the actor or something is happening in such an authentic way that it shoots right through my whatever sort of cerebral, intellectual analysis of the film is, and it shoots right into my soul. And those are always the moments in films that illuminate a lot of things for me, and then having me thinking about it and living in it and breathing it. So that's all we try to do every day, is to work from that place. So maybe if we were able to achieve that, that's people have been receiving it, and they have felt that thing the reason why I'm so lucky and just so honored to be able in this profession to be able to be a storyteller in that way, or try to be a storyteller in that way. I think the more personal you make something, the more chance it has to be received by many people. It just feels that way. I mean, isn't that what we're always looking for someone to actually stand up and talk to you, and you feel like they're really coming from an authentic place, and then you're willing to listen. It's not even willing to listen. You're sort of compelled to listen because it's authentic. You're compelled to. Movies compel me to bear witness to them when they feel like they're coming from a personal place. So that's all we were trying to do this whole time. So, maybe that has connected in some way to people.
Sort of reminds me of what my voice teacher told me many years ago, is you never want the audience to be leaning away from you as you are singing at them, but rather that the audience is leaning into you because they want to hear you. I have talked to so many people, about this film. I've gotten so many messages, and the truth is that it resonates for everyone on completely different levels. They're touched by completely different things. And, it's always very special to me, of course, when, I hear that someone is touched by something in specific that is true to, the library of emotions and the library of feeling and memories that I have in my heart. But I think that this was mostly, I think, powerful in part to, or truly because of, Bradley creating a film, which I don't want to say the film that you made, but I'm going to give my opinion, which is that, I am not the only star that is born in this film. Every character in this film is a star. And I think that the true star in this film is bravery. I think the true star in this film is perseverance. I think it's the ability to go on when things are hard. And I think that is a tale that can be told forever. And so for me, if I take myself out of the actress role and just watch it, that is what I feel. And I'm very grateful for that, because I think movies that teach us to be brave, inspire us to be empowered to move forward and to never give up. I mean, I think that's the thing. Make your voice heard. Be yourself.
All right. So we have some actor questions. This is from Sitara Atai. I'm going to mispronounce your name. I'm sorry, but I'm hopefully going to read the question correctly. What's one crucial tip you would give to an auditioning actor on how to book the role, on how to land it? What's a tip that you would give to someone auditioning? Oh. Any of you guys? Bradley, you've gone on 50,000 auditions. Yeah. I mean,
you know what I'd say is to reframe the question in your mind to not about landing the job, but to look at it. I remember for like the first 3 years, I honestly didn't know that you actually book a job. That I thought a callback was like getting the job. I remember the first job I got was Sex and the City, and I was like, what do you mean I got it? Like I have to do it? Didn't I already do it? Like wasn't that? I was like, what do you mean I do it? Like I have to show up and didn't I do it? Isn't that what it is? And do you know what I'm talking about? It just feels like auditioning it just becomes, you're like, oh, that's the job, along with, then I do another job to make money. Right? I mean, it's just like, because you're never going to get the job, right? That's not even in the cards.
Yeah.
Why would I even think that? So auditioning, the thing that and you go through then you go through all these things. Maybe I'll try this, and I remember Anthony Hopkins said he read everything 250 times, and I remember I did the Spider-Man audition, and it was like 3 lines. I was like, well, I could do 3 lines 250 times. And by the time I got to like 150, I was like, how the fuck did Anthony Hopkins read his lines 250 times? So that didn't work for me. And by the time I got to the audition, I couldn't even remember how to say a word. But sorry, this is a long-winded answer. Audition, I can go on forever about auditioning. But the thing that I think for you to work on would be my suggestion is just to be completely present in the audition and risk. And not think so much about whether you're going to get the job, because there's so many factors. And now being on the other side of it, it has nothing to do with whether you kill the audition. It has literally nothing to do with it. It's all about a quality. That's it. It's like that. There's a quality. I see something. That's why I hate auditions. Elliott Kazan said he would take people for a walk around his office. That's how he would get to know them. That's what I believe. Because everybody, as Jackson said, talent's everywhere. It's just finding something to say and a way to say it. It's like then you bring it out of that person. So the more you can show your personal indelible quality in your audition, I think then you're going to use that audition as a way to become more present at acting, and you're going to grow. So take that audition and have ownership of it for you and your own process, and take the power away from those who are going to determine whether you get the job or not.
That's great.
I just love the idea of wait, I got the job? Wait, what? Yeah, it's so good. Well, this is a question kind of for everybody, but directed towards you, Lady Gaga. What's your process on staying in the moment when you are managing your nerves, when you have the dialogue to say, when you have to get through it? What is something, a helpful tool that you use to stay on focus?
Well, quite frankly, I would just tell myself to get my shit together, and you got to be in the room, And if it's funny, the first day we filmed together, for me, the first few takes that we did, that was the hardest of the whole time that we shot, because I was so nervous and I had gone over my lines 250 times. And Bradley was trying to loosen me up, so he started talking to me, and I just kept saying the same line, and it made no sense because he was saying something and I was responding, but I wasn't saying anything that made any sense in response to what he was saying to me. And he just said, I think finally goes, "Are you okay?"
Yeah.
And I said, "No." And I started to cry, and I let it out. So, if you're nervous, cry it out, let it go. Shake it off. I also I learned at the Lee Strasberg Institute. I learned relaxation techniques. Where you sort of flop in the chair and you drop each part of your body one at a time, and you really sink into the chair and you really feel relaxed. So I would suggest that. And also, I would just say, being unafraid to really be in the skin of someone else. For me, that was the thrill in this, was I got to be somebody else that story is somewhat like mine, but also so not. I was like, I'm gonna make it. I'm a singer. I'm a musician. I'm gonna get this gig. I'm gonna be my own manager on the phone, and I'm gonna pretend that I'm the hottest, performer in town. And the thing is that Allie's not like that. Allie just was so insecure. So, I had to relax into a vulnerability that I am not normally comfortable with. But I was able to do that because of Bradley. Bradley really, he made me feel comfortable. So I would say, unless you have a fantastic director like Bradley Cooper and you are feeling very nervous, I would just focus on those relaxation techniques and trusting in and loving your character and loving the skin that you are in and having that self-compassion.
And my last question for tonight, because unfortunately we're running out of time, is for you, Sam. I'd like you to speak to, having been in this business for many decades, how do you still have the passion for it? What is it that you love about being an actor that makes you want to get up every day and do it?
I can't do anything else.
Ain't that the truth?
I've consciously wanted to do this since I was 9 years old. You know, going to a little movie theater called the Sequoia Theater in Sacramento, California. And I had tunnel vision about pursuing it, much to my dad's chagrin and much to my mother's delight, I think. But in watching those films at the Sequoia as a kid, whatever that magical thing that used to happen in those days with light going through a piece of celluloid, it excited me to watch, and it made me want to do that. And it was never about being a real actor, you know. I've never been a stage actor. It was about film. It just intrigued me from the get-go, and I love to tell stories, and I love to entertain people. You know, I mean, we can talk about this all night, but we're really in the entertainment business, and you know, it's a wonderful thing to go into a theater and be able to sit there in the dark and go somewhere else for an hour or two, and it's fun to be able to be part of that, to take people on that ride. You know, I mean, I think about it. I wonder about it. I don't work a lot. I've just been lucky that I had some really nice parts along the road. You know, I've been selective. I've turned a lot of stuff down, a lot more than I've done. But I love doing it. And I think one of the things that I love about it is that you have these incredible encounters with people. You know, and this film was a perfect example of that. You know, I mean, where else are you going to go to have encounters with Lady Gaga and Bradley Cooper? You know?
Well, congratulations, guys, and
Thank you.
Bradley, to you. It's just I love this movie, and it's been an absolute honor and a pleasure to sit here and talk about it with you guys in front of you. So thank you so much.
Thank you. That was
so
great.
much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.